Domestic violence comes into consideration in actually a myriad of the legal issues presented in a divorce case, but focusing for a moment on the issue of child custody and parenting time. If there is domestic violence, then at the outset, the court can suspend contact with your child. So if your spouse contacts the police for a domestic violence incident, and the court issues a temporary restraining order, at that moment, custody and parenting time is affected. As you proceed through that restraining order process, depending on the outcome of the hearing or whether or not there's a dismissal, the long-term effect of a restraining order can be substantial. Because when you look at the best interest factors in considering custody, one of the factors is the history of domestic violence between the parties and or affecting the children. So the issue of domestic violence, a lot of people kind of dismiss it as it's not real in my situation. But the truth of the matter is sometimes what you do not believe is domestic violence can be domestic violence. Simple example that we're seeing a lot right now is if you use a tracker in someone's vehicle, purse, briefcase, whatever, if you put an Apple tracker on them with the purpose of knowing where they are, when they are where they're going, what they're doing, any of that, that is stalking. That is domestic violence. So while you may look at this and think, I didn't ever hit her, that alone, the tracking, can be domestic violence. That would impact your rights going forward as to both custody and parenting time with your children. Not only can domestic violence affect your parenting time, but it can be a consideration as to the division of assets. While domestic violence is not one of those key indicators as to whether 50-50 would apply or some other deviation, it can be a key indicator if there's a long-term history of domestic violence. The impact of violence would allow your spouse to sue you in addition to suing you for divorce. They can sue you for the injury, the personal injury, physical, emotional, associated with the violence. So by way of a very simple example, if your net worth is $1 million and the court has determined that there's a history of domestic violence, if it should have been 50-50, it could be 80-20 in favor of the victim of violence, because there is a repercussion to the decision to commit a crime, and domestic violence in New Jersey is a quasi-criminal action. Depending on the level of violence, it can also cross over into a criminal action. If you are experiencing fear in your relationship, if there has been physical or sexual violence, if you are being controlled with money or threats to your children, you should immediately contact the police or go to your local courthouse to apply for a temporary restraining order. These acts can be considered domestic violence, and the compounding of acts, meaning constant text messages, constant telephone calls, can be, in and of themselves, the compounding can be domestic violence. If you are in fear for your safety or the safety of your children, you should immediately contact the police or go to your local courthouse. If you have any questions about how domestic violence will impact your divorce case, please contact us at Jersey Coast Family Law.